You are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I am Parmeshwar Bawa. We've got an action-packed bulletin lined up for you. Let's begin with the top headlines you need to know. US President Donald Trump announced 50% tariffs on copper after having implemented similar duties on steel and aluminium. He added that tariffs on pharmaceuticals could rise to 200% after a year. India and Brazil ink 6 pacts and boost defense and anti-terror focus. This is Prime Minister Modi has left for Namibia, which would be his first visit to the country. The visit to the African country will also mark the last stop of his 5-nation tour. Nimisha Priya, the Indian nurse who is on death row after being convicted for the murder of a Yemeni national, will be executed next week on the 16th of July. Elon Musk owns social media platform X has refuted the government over its blocking accounts of Reuters, saying it received blocking orders for more than 2,000 accounts in India. US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu held their second meeting in as many days on Tuesday to discuss Gaza, wrapping up more than an hour-long Oval Office session amid signs of progress toward a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Meanwhile, the US reversed course on its earlier pause on weapons shipments to Ukraine. Kyiv and its European allies were caught off guard last week by the Pentagon's apparent move to halt sending critical munitions. Our big focus after concluding his 2-day visit to Brazil, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has left for Namibia, which would be his first visit to the country. The visit to the African country will also mark the last stop of his 5-nation tour. And this state visit, the third ever taken by an Indian Prime Minister, comes at the invitation of President Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. Prime Minister Modi will hold bilateral talks while he's there with the President, and he will also deliver an address at the Parliament there, just like his address to the Parliament in Ghana. Right, for further clarity on the key takeaways and what we should look out for, joining us on the World 24/7, Ambassador Srivastav. Sir, thank you so much for your time. This is the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Namibia in about 27 years. Take us through the strategic and diplomatic significance of this touchdown.
Well, yes, it's a milestone because this is happening, as you said, after 27 years. And the visit also takes place when we have the first female president of Namibia. She has just taken office in March this year. And over the years, since Namibia's independence, we have made steady progress in our relationship. However, the visit will provide an opportunity to elevate this relationship to a higher level. And also the PM's visit, PM Modi's visit reaffirms that Africa is a priority for us.
So, minerals and diamonds are expected to be central to the discussions that are expected to be held. What kind of agreements are likely, and if you could just take us through how they could benefit both our nations?
Indian companies and mostly the public sector units, they are interested in investing in the critical mineral sector of Namibia. For some time, we have had discussions, but we are looking at a visit from an Indian delegation with all these PSUs after PM Modi's visit to concretize the discussions during the visit. We are also in the process of discussing an agreement on mineral resources. And presently, we have just a few Indian companies in Namibia. Nevertheless, these companies, they employ approximately 5,000 locals. And you can imagine when some of our large PSUs, they invest in critical mineral sector of Namibia. We are also interested in the heavy rare earth sector of Namibia. And when these large PSUs come, this figure that I mentioned, 5,000 employment of locals, this would increase tenfold, and this will make a significant impact on the current high unemployment in Namibia. The companies, the Indian companies, when they come and invest in the critical mineral sector and also the rare earth mineral sector, would also do value addition and beneficiation in Namibia, and this will also boost the Namibian economy. On uranium, yes, way back in 2009, we signed an agreement with Namibia on civil nuclear cooperation. However, we have not been able to import uranium from Namibia yet, and I'm very hopeful that the Prime Minister's visit will break the logjam so that discussions can on the export of uranium from Namibia to India can come in soon.
Well, we certainly hope so too. We'll be keeping a close eye on those developments as well. So then in what ways, Ambassador, does this visit reflect India's broader outreach to the global south, especially in Africa?
In Africa and for the global south also, for us it's very important that we build that capacity. And as I said, we would want to share our experience, expertise and knowledge with India. I can give you one example about the digital transformation that is happening in India. And it is our Prime Minister's wish that we share this experience also with the countries in the global south, especially with Africa. And Namibia, this has had a good start. We have the UPI-like digital payment system that is being developed in Namibia with cooperation from NIPL. So these are the areas that would open up with the visit.
Sir, thank you so much for joining us. We will keep a close eye on the key developments as the Prime Minister touches down in Namibia with you. We're hoping for fruitful discussions to be held. Meanwhile, India and Brazil signed 6 agreements, including one on combating international terrorism and transnational crime, as Prime Minister Narendra Modi held a bilateral meeting with President Lula Inácio Lula da Silva in capital Brasilia. In his media remarks after the meeting, our Prime Minister underscored India's position on terrorism as he said, both India and Brazil believe in zero tolerance and zero double standards on terrorism and supporters of terrorism. India and Brazil signed agreements for cooperation in renewable energy, digital solutions, intellectual property, and exchange of classified information as well. Prime Minister Modi said they set a target of $20 billion in bilateral trade and focused on defense cooperation too, with our Prime Minister saying the two countries were looking at interlinking their defense industries in a sign of growing trust between them. Just listen in.
आज राष्ट्रपति जी द्वारा मुझे ब्राजील के सर्वोच्च राष्ट्रीय सम्मान से विभूषित किया जाना मेरे लिए ही नहीं बल्कि 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों के लिए भी अत्यंत गर्व और भावुकता का पल है। मेरे मित्र राष्ट्रपति लूला भारत और ब्राजील स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप के चीफ आर्किटेक्ट हैं। हमने आने वाले 5 वर्षों में द्विपक्षीय व्यापार को $20 बिलियन तक ले जाने का लक्ष्य निर्धारित किया है।
In other news, US President Donald Trump has announced 50% tariffs on copper after having implemented similar duties on steel and aluminium as well. But he's added that tariffs on pharmaceuticals could rise to 200% after a year. Now, I'll tell you why this is significant, especially for us in India. India exports $2 billion worth of copper and copper products globally in 2024 and 25, with the US accounting for $360 million or 17% of that total. The US is also India's largest overseas market for pharmaceuticals. Drug exports to the US rose to $9.8 billion in the financial year 25, up 21% from $8.1 billion the previous year, and now account for 40% of India's total pharma exports. Trump says he's planning to impose tariffs on imported semiconductors and pharmaceuticals, with medicine tariffs potentially reaching 200%. However, he said drug makers would be given about a year to get their act together. In other news, a heated dispute has erupted between social media platform X and the Indian government over the blocking of over 2,300 accounts, including those of international news agency Reuters. X claims the government ordered the blocks on the 3rd of July under the IT Act, demanding compliance within an hour without justification. But the Indian Ministry of Electronics and IT denies issuing any fresh orders. Clarifying it immediately urged X to unblock Reuters. X restored the accounts after 21 hours, but tensions remain as X raises concerns about press censorship in India and also explores legal options. Here are the details.
A fresh war of words has erupted involving Tesla chief Elon Musk. And this time, it's not with US President Trump, but the Indian government instead. Days after several news agencies' X handles were blocked in India, including Reuters, the Musk-owned social media platform X has hit out against the center, expressing deep concern about ongoing press censorship in India. X claims the Indian government ordered the social media platform to block 2,355 accounts in the country within an hour, without giving any justification, under Section 69A of the IT Act. Yet, after much public outcry, the government ultimately asked X to unblock Reuters handles, the Musk-owned social media platform claims. It further stated that given the restrictions by Indian law, X is pursuing legal options. The IT ministry has clearly denied any orders on withholding the Reuters handle, saying it was working with X to resolve the matter and had demanded that the handle be unblocked as soon as it was blocked. On July 5th, X blocked the handles of Reuters and Reuters World, with a message displayed on their accounts stating that they had been withheld in India in response to a legal demand. This is not the first time X has clashed with the government over the IT Act, which allows the centre to demand the takedown of content from social media platforms if deemed a threat to public order or national security. Last year, the Election Commission ordered certain political posts be withheld ahead of the polls, to which X expressed public outrage. In 2021, X was locked in a standoff with the centre over non-compliance with legal orders to block posts, which it later complied to. India is a crucial growth market for ex-Chief Musk, on the brink of launching other key ventures such as Starlink and Tesla in the country. All eyes are on Musk, and if this latest flashpoint will impact the launch of Starlink, which is in its final stages in India. Disha Bagchi for NDTV.
Moving on, Indian nurse Nimisha Priya, who has been convicted for the murder of a Yemeni citizen, is set to be executed on the 16th of July. Nimisha's mother, Prema Kumari, a domestic worker in Kochi, has been camping in Yemen for the past year. And Nimisha, a native of Kerala, had worked as a nurse in Yemen for several years until she was accused of murder back in 2017. The case has been complicated as the Indian side actually has no formal diplomatic contacts with the Houthi rebels. Let's take you to the big meeting we're tracking as far as the US is concerned. Donald Trump has met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House for a second time in 24 hours to discuss a possible ceasefire deal in Gaza. The unscheduled talks on Tuesday evening lasted just over an hour with no media access. Joining us with an expert's view and insider details at the moment, Daniel Block. Daniel, always a pleasure to have you on the World 24/7. This meeting was tightly sealed with very little information coming out, it seems. The fact that there's been no clear readout of exactly what was discussed, the fact that the meeting lasted just over an hour before the Prime Minister returned to his residence, does it indicate that there's some kind of stumbling block, something that's clouding the optimistic position the two leaders have adopted over the past 24 hours?
Well, we do know that there are a couple holdups in the talks right now. One big one is Hamas wants this to basically turn into a permanent ceasefire.
Yes.
It wants the 60-day truce that they're talking about right now to lead to a permanent end to the war. And they want assurances that that's what they're going to get. And Israel, by all accounts, wants the ability in some ways to back out. It wants the ability to resume combat if it doesn't like the way the ceasefire is playing out and to continue with its operations. So that's one possible holdup, although I've seen some reporting recently that suggests that may be resolved. But for now, I want to say that's still very much a holdup. The other is there's disputes going on about where Israel will be able to station military forces. So Israel, I believe, would like to keep something of an IDF presence in the Gaza Strip. Hamas wants more or less a full withdrawal to pre-October 7, 2023 positions. And there could be other holdups that we don't know about. Like you said, a lot is still uncertain.
A lot is still uncertain. We're waiting for any official confirmation regarding what actually happened in that second meeting that was held within 24 hours. Daniel, as always, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time. Meanwhile, Hamas, as Daniel has mentioned, wants a 60-day truce with an assurance, and Israel wants the ability to resume combat if it doesn't like the way the ceasefire is playing out. But shortly before Trump met Netanyahu, his special envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, he suggested a ceasefire deal in Gaza is close and said Washington hopes to see an agreement finalized by the end of the week. Is that possible remains the big question. But he said the issues keeping Israel and Hamas from agreeing had now dropped to 1 from 4. But here's what Netanyahu had to say. Also listen in to a reaction we've lined up for you from Qatar.
There are opportunities for peace that we intend to realize. We're working together on this. We have still to finish the job in Gaza, release all our hostages, eliminate and destroy Hamas's military and governance capabilities, because Gaza must have a different future for our sake, for everyone's sake. And no country will settle for less. We certainly will not. These are all things that I discussed with President Trump. I may discuss further with him.
Too early to give any impressions over the talks and how they are going right now between both sides. The only thing that we can say is that there is engagement on both sides. We are talking to both sides as we are going along. Obviously, what we are trying to do is bridge the gap in the positions on both sides over the sensitive issues. I can't share with you a lot of these issues, but what I can tell you is that there is a positive engagement right now.
Staying with updates from the US, over 100 people are dead and at least 161 are still missing after catastrophic flash floods swept through the hill country in Texas, I beg your pardon, over the 4th of July weekend. Most of the deaths were in Kerr County, where authorities confirmed 87 bodies, including 30 children. The governor, Greg Abbott, says many victims were never registered at hotels or camps, making it harder to track the missing. Meanwhile, at Camp Mystic, a Christian girls' camp, 5 campers and a counselor are still accounted for. This as rescuers are still searching, but hope of finding survivors is waning. Meanwhile, a Hindu faith-based humanitarian non-profit, Seva International, has launched an urgent fundraising campaign to provide financial aid to the affected families. The donations will go directly towards the emergency supplies.
Hundreds of first responders remain along the Guadalupe River in Kerr County working to reunite families. The large search and rescue effort, including local, state, federal, and volunteer agencies, continue. As of 8 a.m. Central Time, 87 deceased have been recovered in Kerr County, including 56 adults and 30 children. Identification is pending for 19 adults and 7 children, with 1 additional person still unidentified. At present, 5 Camp Mystic campers and 1 counselor still remain unaccounted for.
Meanwhile, the United States only has about 25% of the Patriot missile interceptors it needs for all of the Pentagon's military plans after burning through stockpiles in the Middle East in recent months. This is an alarming depletion that led to the Trump administration freezing the latest transfer of munitions to Ukraine. You know, the stockpile of the Patriot missiles has fallen so low that it raised concern inside the Pentagon that it could jeopardize potential US military operations, and Deputy Defense Secretary Stephen Feinberg authorized the transfer to be halted while they reviewed where weapons were being sent. Donald Trump appeared to reverse at least part of that decision on Monday when he told reporters in advance of a dinner at the White House with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that he would send some more weapons to Ukraine, although he did not disclose whether that would include the Patriot systems. Disha Bakshi breaks down the details.
A new Pentagon review has revealed that the Trump administration may soon be out of the marquee Patriot missile interceptors. So this review has revealed that the United States has only about 25% of its Patriot missile stockpile left, which could really potentially jeopardize any future American military operations. We did see that the United States used these Patriot missile interceptors against Iran, as well as it's been used by Ukraine against Russia. But now this Pentagon review has said that the US has only about 25% of its Patriot missile stockpile left. And essentially a lot of this stockpile was burnt through and depleted at an alarming rate in the Middle East over the past couple of months. We've seen an increase in tensions in the region, as well as it was also given to Ukraine and has been given to Ukraine over the last 3 years by both the Biden administration as well as the Trump administration. And partly this is why the Washington decided to pause military aid to Ukraine in the past week. Just to give our viewers some context, the Patriot missile is the marquee US defense system, and it's used to intercept retaliatory threats by enemies. So this is a very crucial weapon in the American defense system. But now it has been revealed that this problem also became quite worse in the recent US strikes against Iran, because there the US used about 30 Patriot missiles in the US strikes on the Iranian nuclear sites. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Trump administration really balances this new revelation, where its Patriot missile stockpile is depleting at an alarming rate, but also supporting Ukraine in this war against Russia, because US President Donald Trump has signaled that he's becoming increasingly frustrated by Russian President Putin, because Putin continues to stall truce talks, and there is no indication from Russia that they are looking at ending the war against Ukraine, because now that there's almost been 6 months of the Trump administration, and US President has not been able to pause the war against war between Russia and Ukraine. So it's a very fine balance between the depleting stockpile as well as a growing frustration with Russia. So it's going to be a very interesting revelation by the Pentagon.
A preliminary report into the crash of an Air India jetliner that killed 260 people in June is reportedly expected to be released by Friday, the 11th of July. A step that could provide early details into the world's worst aviation disaster in a decade. Now, while the report from Indian investigators could be made public on Friday, plans could change, and there still remains no clarity on how much information would be available in the document, which comes about 30 days after the June 12th tragedy. Wildfires are raging in Spain and France, prompting the closure of an international airport after a days-long heat wave parched landscapes in the region and actually turned woodlands into tinderboxes. Former UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has joined Goldman Sachs as a senior advisor. Mr. Sunak, who resigned as Prime Minister in July 2024, will work part-time advising the bank's clients with his unique perspective and insights on global politics and the economy. This is what the company has said. He remains the Conservative MP for Richmond in Yorkshire, and Sunak previously worked at the bank as an analyst in the early 2000s before he entered politics. 2 Chinese satellites carried out what is believed to be the first attempt to refuel a spacecraft in high orbit. The 2 satellites were seen coming together in their geostationary orbit, roughly 20,000 miles from Earth. Twitter co-founder and ex-CEO Jack Dorsey has announced the beta launch of BitChat, a decentralized peer-to-peer messaging app to take on WhatsApp. Dorsey revealed over the weekend that the beta version is now live on test flight with a detailed white paper available. The app is designed to work entirely over Bluetooth mesh networks, which actually means it requires no internet, central servers, phone numbers or emails, offering an off-grid communication method. Beautiful, big and bizarre, anything but boring. Paris Couture Week, which celebrates the best of fashion design, has kicked off with Indian designer Rahul Mishra once again making jaw-dropping pieces. Mishra's latest collection explores the 7 stages of love inspired by Sufism. And finally, as the International Space Station flew over India, astrophotographers and amateurs alike turned their cameras to the skies, possibly mirroring the awe-filled gaze with which Indian astronaut Shubhanshu Shukla must have been looking at his country. While the football field-sized ISS passed over Delhi NCR on Monday night, sightings will continue for another 3 days till the 12th of July. Among the earliest glimpses of the ISS passage over Delhi was captured by renowned astrophotographers Ajay Talwar and his wife Neelam Talwar.